Blog Talk Radio.
Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Sing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Praise Yah. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yah, all you witnesses, do not forget his benefits. Forgive the iniquity till the diseases in my ligaments. The Redeemer and Creator, me from dust, he know I make up, merciful and slow to anger, gracious, only one can save us. Yah, who satisfies my mouth with good things. Bless Yah, who renews me like the eagle's wings. Bless Yah, who made his ways known unto Moses and his acts to the children of Israel, who he chosen. Bless Yah. Bless Yah, oh my soul. Bless Yah, all his angels. Bless Yah, all his hosts. Bless Yah, all his words. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. I will bless Yah at all times. His praise shall continually be in my rhymes. Praise Yah for unto what his glorious shine. Baruch Yah Malek by Shemaim Elo Ba'aret. Praise Yah for he execute righteousness and judgment for all that are oppressed. He renewed my health like the eagle's wings. Yah fed my mouth with good things. So unto Yah his glory I sing. Yah bless. Bless Yah, oh my soul. Bless Yah, all his angels. Bless Yah, all his hosts. Bless Yah, all his words. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name.
Hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. And welcome to another beautiful broadcast of Nothing But the Truth. I am your host this evening, Mowreh IshYAH, YIsraEL, here to bring you the great words of the mighty Yahweh. And shalom to everyone that has tuned in by way of Facebook, YouTube, and Blog Talk Radio. For we know that the only reason that you have tuned into our broadcast is because of your great fear and love towards the mighty Yah. So praise the mighty Yah. Yahweh is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. And we're going to bring you Yah's word today or tonight for the Morehs, including myself, here at the House of YIsraEL of Cincinnati, located at 1907 Vine Street, have been risen up by the mighty Yah to bring you his word. Therefore, we will bring you Yah's word tonight. And who is this Yah? Well, Yahweh is the creator of the heavens, earth, and sea. Yahweh is the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Yahweh is the only judge, the only lawgiver, the only king, the only redeemer, and the only savior of Yisrael and the world. So we will bring you Yah's truth tonight. And we'll be speaking on the very important matter of obeying Yah's voice. Now, many of us here in our captivity amongst the children of Israel, many of Yah's people are not quite aware of Yahweh and who he is and what it means to obey Yah's voice. We've been taught many lies and shown many fallacies and been given a lot of hocus pocus and fairy tales. So much so that we don't really know how to listen to the Creator, when to listen to the Creator, and the importance of listening to the Creator. Therefore, we commit sin upon sin, not knowing the gravity of our actions. But in these times, these latter days, in the times in which it is essential for Yah's people to wake up, it is very imperative that you are to understand that it is life or death if you obey Yah's voice. Now, we have to be clear that you obey Yah's voice, because you have been taught that a voice has said, or the voice said this, and the voice said that. And usually the voice is telling you to do things that Yahweh has never mentioned. And where do you hear about the voice? Just this mysterious voice in which you have no identity to. Well, of course, this was taught to you in the New Testament, where the voice said from heaven, "This is my son, obey him." Well, what is this voice from heaven? Was somebody in a hot air balloon with a loudspeaker speaking? What is this voice? Where did it come from? Maybe they was just on the top of a mountain and you were below them and you heard a voice. Who knows what this voice was? There was no name to the voice. There was no identification of the voice. Nor was there anybody to stand by the words of this voice or any actions that fulfilled the words of this voice. Therefore, the voice must have been a figment of your imagination. Nevertheless, many books have been written that are figments of imagination. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Marvel Comics, and the New Testament. Which means a lot of people have been led astray by the equivalence of a comic book turned into an alternate reality that is giving you your religion. But it is time to come out of the books of lies and return to Yah's truth and Yah's voice. And let's see what Yah said in the book of Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, the first verse. Now, the reason I go here first is because it happens to be in the heathens' calendar a folly day, which you know is a holiday, in which they celebrate what they call love. And they call it Saint Valentine's Day. And that happens to be the date of today. And Yahweh has something to say about the heathens and the things in which they do. And here in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, it states, "Hear ye the word of Yahweh, the word which Yahweh speaks unto you, O house of Yisrael." You see how Jeremiah indicated who is speaking, how Jeremiah allowed you to understand who is talking to you, whose voice are you hearing at this precise moment. Hear ye the word which Yahweh speaks unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, not thus saith the voice, but thus saith Yahweh. Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. Yes. And don't you know that Valentine's Day comes from a pagan Roman ritual that was dealing with some alignment of some star at this time, and they gave it the name, a deity's name that bears the name of this month. And this deity and this star and this festival that they celebrate at this time is all connected to lewd sexual behavior. And Yahweh told you, do not be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. Who in the world makes holidays after lewd sexual behavior? And now everybody's running around eating chocolate candies and spending all their money to make their girlfriends and boyfriends smile just to do a custom that is vain, which is birthed and born in lewdness. And Yahweh never mentioned this day. And he lets you know that you need to hear the word which Yahweh speaks unto you. He said, the customs of the people are vain. For one cuts out a tree of the midst of the forest, the work of man's hands, and the workman with an axe. That's what they do on Christmas. So the customs of the people are vain, and Yahweh did not speak this word unto you to celebrate this time. Nor did Yahweh tell you to follow the deities of your enemies. So therefore, once you've learned that you must come out of these false religions, and you've seen that, and now you know you have to follow Yah, now you have to become serious and diligent on obeying Yah's voice. How did Yahweh expect his servants to follow his word in past times? You'll see in the book of 1 Kings a situation in which Yahweh did something you would think would be drastic today for not obeying Yah's voice. In the book of 1 Kings, the 20th chapter, we'll pick it up around the 26th verse. And this is a time where Ahab was the king of Israel. And Ahab was the most wicked man there was. And Ahab was the king of Israel. And the king of Syria, named Ben-Hadad, decided to go and attack Ahab. And when he attacked Israel, he lost. And his people, Ben-Hadad and his people, said, because Yahweh is the Elohim of the hills, they prevailed. But we'll attack them in the plain because Yahweh is only an Elohim of the hills. So, of course, Yahweh is jealous for his name. Yahweh is the creator of the heaven, earth, and sea. There's nothing that escapes the Most High. He is the only Elohim. He's the Elohim of the hills, of the valley, of the water, of the trees, of the bugs, of the birds, of everything. He is the only Elohim. So in verse 26, it says, and it came to pass that at the return of the year, that Ben-Hadad numbered the Syrians and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. And the children of Israel were numbered and were all present and went against them. And the children of Israel pitched before them like two little flocks of kids, which means that they was as small as two little flocks of some cattle, of some sheep, or some goat. Two little flocks of some kids. But the Syrians filled the country. So they was massive. They filled the whole land. And there came a man of Elohim and spake to the king of Israel and said, thus saith Yahweh, because the Syrians have said, Yahweh is Elohim of the hills, but he is not Elohim of the valleys. Therefore will I deliver all this great multitude into your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. Now Yahweh is letting Ahab know he's not about to deliver the nation of Israel in him because he's a righteous man. Ahab was wicked. He was doing it because they insulted the Most High and said, oh, the only reason he won is because he's an Elohim of the hills. So Yahweh will not let that go down in record. No, he had to show him he is the Elohim over all the heaven, earth, and sea. And he wasn't going to let no big growing empire like Syria put on record that they defeated Israel in the valley because Yah is an Elohim of the hills. And so Yahweh said, I will give this great multitude into your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And in verse 29, he said, and they pitched one over against the other 7 days, and it was that in the seventh day the battle was joined, and the children of Israel slew of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in 1 day. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and there a wall fell upon 27,000 of the men that were left. So 127,000 men was destroyed because Yahweh wanted to make a very important point. And Ben-Hadad fled and came into the city into an inner chamber. And his servants said to him, behold now, we have heard that the kings of the house of Israel are merciful kings. Let us, I pray you, put sackcloth on our loins and ropes upon our heads and go out to the king of Israel. Perhaps we will save your life. So they guarded sackcloth on their loins and put ropes on their heads and came to the king of Israel and said, your servant Ben-Hadad said, I pray you, let me live. And he said, is he yet alive? He is my brother. Now this is how wicked Ahab is. This man trying to destroy your nation, take you over. And here comes some people from him saying, let Ben-Hadad live. And then this is supposed to be your enemy. You say, oh, is he alive? He's my brother. This man tried to murder you. Destroy. He wanted to. Do you know Ben-Hadad told Ahab that he's coming to take his children and his wives and whatever seems pleasant to the eyes of his servants? And all of a sudden, he's your brother. Verse 33, now the men did diligently observe whether anything would come from him and did hastily catch it. So they just watching to see, is he going to say something that we could capitalize on? And they said, your brother, Ben-Hadad. Then he said, go you, bring him. Then Ben-Hadad came forth to him, and he caused him to come up into the chariot. He let him ride in his chariot. A man that just said he's going to take your women and children. And now he's in your chariot. And Ben-Hadad said unto him, the cities which my father took from your father, I will restore to, and you shall make streets for you in Damascus, and my father, as my father made in Samaria. Then said Ahab, I will send you away with this covenant. So he made a covenant with him and sent him away. See how Ahab just ignored the word of the Most High? Yahweh said, don't make no covenants with them. Utterly destroy them. Yahweh said this. He said, utterly destroy them. And let me show you that. Hold this. It's in the book of Deuteronomy. In the 20th chapter. And it states in Deuteronomy 20, verse 1, when you go out to the battle against your enemies and see horses and chariots and a people more than you, be not afraid of them, for Yahweh your Elohim is with you, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be, when you have come near to the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak to the people. And let me get right to where Yahweh said, destroy them. And it's in verse 11, I believe. I'm sorry. Yes, verse 10. It says, when you come near to a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace to it. And it shall be, if it makes peace, you answer of peace, and opens to you, then it shall be that all the people that are found therein shall be tributaries unto you, and they shall serve you. And if it will make no peace with you, and Ben-Hadad, not only did we not go to Syria, Syria came to us, and they wanted to make war. And if it will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when Yahweh your Elohim has delivered into your hands, you shall smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. So he should have destroyed them. And in verse 17, it says, but you shall utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, as Yahweh your Elohim hath commanded you. So even those nations you should destroy completely. And Ahab let Ben-Hadad live, even though he meant to destroy him. And so what did Yahweh have to say about this? Back in 1 Kings, the 20th chapter, verse 35, it says, and a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor, in the word of Yahweh, you see how he made distinct who was speaking, who was talking, what this is about. He said, in the word of Yahweh, smite me, I pray you. And the man refused to smite him. Now, how is that Yahweh's servant comes and says, Yahweh told you to smite me? You say, no, I ain't going to smite you. And the man said to him, smite me, I pray you. And the man refused to smite him. Then said he to him, because you have not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, behold, as soon as you leave, as you have departed from me, a lion shall slay you. And as soon as he had departed from him, a lion found him and slew him. Now that might seem drastic to you today. Like he killed him? He let him get slain by a lion just because he didn't smite him? Just because he didn't hit him? Well, it's not because he didn't hit him. It's because he didn't listen to Yah. And Yahweh told him to do this thing. Then it says in verse 37, then he found another man and said, smite me, I pray you. And the man smote him, so that in smiting he wounded him. So the prophet departed and waited for the king by the way, and disguised himself with the ashes upon his face. And as the king passed by, he cried to the king and said, Your servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a man turned aside and brought a man to me and said, keep this man. If by any means he is missing, then shall your life be for his life, or else you shall pay a talent of silver. Basically letting them know, hey, you keep this man safe, and if he's not safe, if you lose his life, then your life will be lost, or you pay me a talent of silver. And as your servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said to him, so shall your judgment be for yourself. You have declared it, or you have decided it. So you see how unbalanced this man Ahab was? Yahweh told him to do a thing. He didn't do it, knowing the penalty thereof. But here comes the prophet saying, hey, man, this man said if I lose his life, then I got to pay him a talent of silver, or it's my life for his life. You know, help me out. He said, nah, man, you went into that deal. You decided your own fate. Well, then the man of Elohim said he hurried and took the ashes away from his face. And the king of Israel discerned him that he was one of the prophets. And he said to him, thus saith Yahweh, because you have let go out of your hand a man whom I appointed to utter destruction, therefore your life shall go for his life. Hey, this is what you decided. This is your judgment. And your people for his people. You let him go, then I'm going to take your life. You didn't smite me when Yahweh said so, then I'm going to take your life. Why does Yahweh require such, which you think is drastic measures, for not listening to him, for not listening to his voice? Why can't he just put you in jail? Or why can't he just take away your field? Why does he have to take away your entire life? What is so bad about not doing what Yahweh said? Well, the thing that is so bad about it is because Yahweh is life. Yahweh is not telling you anything vain to hurt you or kill you or destroy you. He's telling you these things to protect you, to build you, to preserve you. Because he's holy. And if you don't do what he says, then you defile his word. You're being defiled. And Yahweh is holy. And instead of allowing your unholiness to linger with the stink of not listening to him, he says, nah, you can't remain no more. And Ahab was displeased about this. But Ahab's not the only one. And you look in 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter. First Samuel chapter 15, verse 1, Samuel also said to Saul, Yahweh sent me to anoint you. You see how Yah's prophets, Yah's servants always distinguish, sanctify, set aside who is doing the ordering, who's calling the shots. Samuel didn't say, I woke up one day and decided to pour some oil on your head, make you king. What weight does that hold? No. Samuel said to him, Yahweh sent me. I'm not sent by my own self. I didn't come here on my own thoughts. Yahweh sent me to anoint you to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore, listen you to the voice of the words of Yahweh. What else are you supposed to do? This is what you're here for. You're here to set forth the charge of the Most High. He anointed you in your position to do his will, and that's what you should do. Now, if you don't do it, why would he use you anymore? What use does he have for you if you say, nah, I'm just going to take the benefits of being king. Nah, I'm just going to take the benefits of being priest. I'm just going to take the benefits of being a prophet. I'm just going to take the benefits of being Israel. But I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm just going to walk around like I'm something special. But you want me to do something special, I'm not going to do that. Well, then Yahweh don't have any use for you. Yahweh don't have any need for you. Yahweh will do something special with somebody else. Verse 2, he says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. Now, do you got the heart to do that? Do you got the stomach to do that? Some people don't like the scriptures because they say they kill children. Well, then you don't understand what Yahweh's about. Yahweh is righteous. Yahweh is holy. And Yahweh destroys the wicked. And they say, well, how is the infant suckling child wicked? Well, didn't you know Yahweh through his servants said that the wicked are estranged from the womb, lying as soon as they go forth? Meaning they was wicked when they came out their mother's womb. When they was in the womb, their mama was teaching them lies. When they came out the womb, their mama was teaching them lies. And as soon as they start talking, they gonna lie. What use is a wicked for the Most High? None. He says, slay Amalek. There's no use for him, for he went and defied the children of the Most High. And Saul went out, gathered the people, and he was supposed to go and do his job. But if we pick up in verse 9, it says, in verse 8, it says, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, just like his descendant Ahab, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep. He said camel and donkey, everything. Don't leave the cattle alive. Don't leave any of the people alive. But he took the king, which undoubtedly to Saul, he's like the best of the people. And he took the sheep, the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatted calves, and of the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. Now, whose eyes were they using? Whose perception were they using? Whose heart were they going after? It definitely wasn't Yah's, because Yahweh said destroy everything. But they said, oh, that's an ugly camel. Kill that. That's an ugly sheep. Kill that. That thing got 3 legs. We don't need that. But everything else, we need everything else. Everything that looks nice to me. Yahweh don't think none of it looks nice. You go down to the big cities of Babylon and you see the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge and Fort Knox and all the gold and all the money and all the great amass of riches that they have acquired, and all Yahweh sees is dung. And he says he's going to burn it all up and destroy it all and leave none of it. Yeah, you think you riding high. And the Most High doesn't look at any of these things as worth or value. But yet, Saul and his people weren't using the right judgment. And so in verse 10, it says, then came the word of Yahweh to Samuel, saying, it repents me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back from following me, and has not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto Yahweh all night. And Samuel was upset, because Samuel loved Saul. And he was disappointed that Saul didn't do what he was supposed to. And Samuel knew what the result of Saul not doing what he's supposed to would be. And the result is Saul would be cut off. And in verse 12, it says, "And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told to Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and has gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of Yahweh. I have performed the commandment of Yahweh." And you know the proverb says every man is right in their own eyes. This man know he didn't do what Yahweh said. You know how somebody come to you and say, "Yeah, I did that, but I just did it this way." Then you didn't do it. And this is what Saul is saying. "Oh, I performed the word of Yah." And Saul said, and Samuel said, "What means then this bleating of sheep in my ear, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear?" Samuel, like, if you did what Yahweh said, then why do I hear sheep and oxen? And Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto Yahweh your Elohim. And the rest we have utterly destroyed." He trying to butter them up. Oh, they just, the people, they did this, that, and the third, so they can sacrifice to your Elohim. Your Elohim, they trying to sacrifice to your Elohim. And Saul said, then Samuel said to Saul, "Stay, and I will tell you what Yahweh has said to me this night." And he said to him, "Say on." And Samuel said, "When you were little in your own sight, were you not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And Yahweh anointed you king over Israel. And Yahweh sent you on a journey and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of Yahweh, but did rush upon the spoil and do evil in the sight of Yahweh?" And Saul said unto Samuel, "Yes, I have obeyed the voice of Yahweh, and have gone the way which Yahweh sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites." See, he don't even realize how foolish he sounds. He said, "I did it, but you didn't." Utterly destroy means completely destroy. Don't leave nothing alive. "But the people took the spoil of sheep and oxen and the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed to sacrifice unto Yahweh your Elohim in Gilgal." So he keep on blaming it on the people, but he did wrong. He the leader. And Samuel said, "Has Yahweh a great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yahweh, he has also rejected you from being king." That's his punishment. Saul was rejected from being king. And from that point on, the spirit of Yah came off of Saul. And Yahweh put his spirit on someone else, and that was David. And Saul, from that point on, was mean and cranky and uncomfortable the rest of his life. He drank. He's alcoholic. And he just chased David around because he didn't want David to be king. And the spirit of Yah wasn't on him anymore. And then he ended up dying, being killed in battle with his sons, because Yahweh cut him off. But why would Yahweh do such a thing? He just saved the king and the best of sheep. That wasn't what Yahweh said to do. Then, if you go to the book of Genesis, the 38th chapter, again, we're dealing with the importance of obeying Yah's voice. You know who Yahweh is now. You learned about the Torah. You found out you a child of Yah. You Yah's servant. You belong to Yah. Yahweh is your Elohim. You fear Yah. These are the things we say. Well, then look how serious it is to not listen to the voice of Yah. In Genesis, the 38th chapter, in the first verse, it says, "And it came to pass at that time that Yehudah went down from his brothers and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hirah. And Yehudah saw there the daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her, and she conceived and bore a son, and called his name And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezeb when she bore him. And Yehudah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Yehudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh slew him. And Yehudah said to Onan, "Go in unto your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother." Now this was before the children of Israel went into Egypt and came out, and it was given the Torah, given the law, in which this is written in the law, that if your brother dwelleth by thee, die, and has not been able to have a child in his name, then you shall go and marry your brother's wife and raise seed up unto him in his name. So this was Yah's commandment. And Yehudah knew it, because who taught Yehudah? Jacob. And who taught Jacob? Isaac. And who taught Isaac? Abraham. And what did Abraham do? All the word of Yah. So he taught his sons, and his sons taught their sons. And here is Yehudah, telling his son the ways of the Most High. And Judah said to Onan, "Go in unto your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed unto your brother." And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahweh, therefore he slew him also. So now you have Yahweh destroyed Ahab, he destroyed Saul, and he destroyed Onan. Why? For not obeying the voice of Yah. Look in the book of Leviticus 10. The first verse of Leviticus chapter 10. Verse 1 states, "And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aharon or Aaron, took either of them his censer, and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire before Yahweh, which he commanded them not." What does that mean? It means that Nadab and Abihu did not obey the voice of Yah. They offered something Yahweh told them not to do. Something Yahweh told them not to offer. Yahweh never told them to offer this strange fire. And you could speculate what this strange fire was, what kind of incense it was, but it was strange. It was not what Yahweh told them to do. And there went out fire from Yahweh and devoured them, and they died before Yahweh. Then Moses said to Aaron, this is that Yahweh spoke, saying, I will be sanctified in them, that they come near me, and before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace. So Moses let Aaron know, I got to set apart and show my holiness and how serious Yah's word is. And Aaron couldn't say, well, why did? He had to hold his peace. He had to stay quiet. He couldn't raise up in protest because he knew the responsibility that they held. The kings that Yahweh anoints, the priests that Yahweh anoints, and the people that Yahweh anoints holds great responsibility to represent the word of Yah. Look in the book of Numbers, the 20th chapter. And in Numbers, chapter 20, verse 1, it reads, Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. And Miriam died there and was buried there, and there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people strove with Moses and spoke, saying, Would Elohim that we had died when our brethren died before Yahweh? And why have you brought up the congregation of Yahweh into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die here? And why have you made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us into this place, evil place? It is now no place of seed or of figs or of vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. Complaining. Israel complaining. Always complaining. They done been in the wilderness all this time. Yahweh done made 70 palm trees, and he done had water come out of the flint. He done gave them manna. He done split the Red Sea. All these miraculous, wondrous events. And they complaining about pomegranates, figs, grapes, and water. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of Yahweh appeared to them. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod. Who spoke to Moses? Yahweh. Whose voice? Yahweh's. Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod, and gather you the assembly together, you and Aaron, your brother, and speak you to the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and you shall bring forth to them water out of the rock. So you shall give the congregation and their beast drink. So Moses took the rod from before Yahweh, as he commanded him, and Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said to them, Hear now, you rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beast also. Do you understand how upset Moses must have been? How tired of the complaining Moses must have been. You ever been that angry, been that upset, been that fed up because somebody just keep on keeping on? Just they don't want to stop. and you just say, here, shut up. You just do something offensive, and then you got to regret it later because you just that tired. And Yahweh told Moses what to do. And Moses was sitting there, I hear you. All right, I hear you. I'm just so sick of these people. And he didn't do what Yahweh told him to do. He didn't do what Yahweh said. Yahweh told him to speak to the rock. He wanted them to see something different. Speak to the rock. Say, thus saith Yahweh, bring forth water. It would have been another wonder the people would have been able to talk about. Mark. But Moses and Aaron said, you rebels, we got to bring you this water, and hit the rock. Well, in verse 12, Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, because you believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. Can you imagine? You 100 and some odd years old. You done been with this congregation 40 years. And you ain't going to go into the land. And why not? Because you didn't listen to the voice of Yah. You did not hear and listen to Yah's word to do exactly what Yah said. And that cost Moses his entry ticket into the land. And Aaron. He couldn't make it. Moses was so broken up, he said, Yah, please. And Yah said, I don't want to hear no more of it. We'll speak not of this again. I'm going to take you up on this mountain here, and you'll get to see it. But you're not going to go in. Because you didn't do what I told you to do. And it must be known that Yahweh means what he says and says what he means. And that he will and must be sanctified. In verse 13 it says, this is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with Yahweh, and he was sanctified in them. So as you can see, you want to call yourself by the name of Yah? You a servant of Yah? You one of Yah's anointed? Or are you going to do what Yahweh said to? You got brothers and sisters calling themselves very illustrious titles. Prince, king, priest, prophet, minister, servant. But sanctify Yah of hosts himself. And this is what Yahweh says in the book of Isaiah, the 8th chapter. In Isaiah, the 8th chapter, start reading in verse 9, where it says, associate yourselves, O ye people, and you shall be broken in pieces. And give ear, all of you of far countries. Gird yourselves, and you shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and you shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand. For Elohim is with us. For Yahweh spoke thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, You see, Isaiah is letting you know Yahweh talked to him with a strong hand. Yahweh let him know, don't go in the way of this people who say ye not a confederacy to all them who this people shall say a confederacy. So don't think you got to join up with every movement. Oh, we got to get on this movement. Black Lives Matter and this, that, and vote, fight the vote, right the vote. Whatever is the movement. Don't say confederacy with all these people who say confederacy. Why? Don't fear ye their fear. That's what Yahweh said. Say you not a confederacy with all these people that say a confederacy. Neither fear you their fear. Trump said he going to build the wall and declare a national emergency anyway. Don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't be afraid of what these people are afraid of. This is what Yahweh's letting you know. He said in verse 13, sanctify Yahweh of hosts himself. Let him be your fear and let him be your dread. And that's what these men, good or bad, did not do. Sanctify Yah of hosts himself. Moses, the most meekest man in Yah's house, became angry and lost his temper, lost his cool. Understandably, this man been dealing with these people. They've been trying to kill him, talk about him, rebel, all kind of things. He done led them through the wilderness, did all this stuff. And he said, you know, I'm sick of y'all. Come drink this water, rebels. I got to go get this water from this rock now. He had a moment, but that's how serious Yah's word is. It doesn't give you an allowance to have a moment when you're in a position of responsibility to sanctify him. And what position is Israel in today? The same one that we've always been in. And I'll show you. In the book of Isaiah, the 43rd chapter, the 10th verse. Here's your position. You are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen. That's what your position is today. You're his witness. And how are you going to witness to Yah if you don't sanctify him? And how are you going to sanctify Yah if you don't obey him? You going to call yourself a child of Yah, but then say you got to serve Christ? That's not sanctifying Yahweh. Call yourself a child of Yah, but then you're going to walk around talking about, can you be my Valentine? That's not a child of Yah sanctifying the mighty Elohim. The Almighty wants you to sanctify Yah of hosts himself, because you are his witness. Look at your position, Israel. Isaiah 49, verse 1 states, listen, O owls, unto me, and listen, ye people from afar. Yahweh has called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name. And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver has he hid me? Yahweh did all of this for you, to hide you, to be a sharp sword. And he said unto me, you are my servant, O Yisrael, in whom I will be glorified. You see? You're going to be glorified. Yah's going to be glorified in you. But are you going to glorify him? And just like Nadab and Abihu, who decided to do something against the word of Yah, Yah still was sanctified in them by showing that if you do something against me, it's over for you. He still was sanctified. And why do you think the children of Israel are in this captivity today? Why do you think that the world is starting to talk about black people in America for 400 years today? Because Yahweh said that you would be here for 400 years. Yahweh said that you would be a servant and be afflicted for 400 years. And because Yahweh said it, it's happening. And because Yahweh said you will be a servant and afflicted because you did not hearken unto the word of Yah, and this is your judgment. And in this judgment, Yahweh is being sanctified. When you go into the corner store and buy a bag of pork grinds and sign your last name on that receipt and sign it Williams and Johnson and Smith, Yahweh is being sanctified. When you go and get the bucket of chitlins, Yahweh is being sanctified. Because all of this nastiness that you're doing is proving Yah's word to be true. When did Yahweh say you would do these crazy things? Well, in his word. In Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. You serving Christ, a God of wood and stone, Yahweh's being sanctified. Yahweh is being glorified. Even though you doing something terrible, Yahweh is always righteous. In Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 58, it says, if you shall not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahweh your Elohim, then Yahweh will make your plagues extraordinary, and the plagues of your seed even great plagues, and of long continuance, and grievous sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon you all the diseases of Egypt, which you were afraid of, and they shall cleave unto you. Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in this book of the law, then Yahweh will bring upon you until you are destroyed. And you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because you would not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. You see? If you don't obey Yah's voice, and we didn't, our ancestors didn't, that's why you had diabetes, heart disease, sickle cell, anemia, cancer, encephalitis, AIDS, HIV, and whatever else. Because you didn't obey the voice of Yah. And Yahweh said, and it shall come to pass that as Yahweh rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to nothing. And you shall be plucked from off the land where you go to possess it. And Yahweh shall scatter you among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there you shall serve other deities, which neither you nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone. The very act of you going into that church and bowing down before that wooden cross is glorifying the word of Yah, is magnifying the word of Yah. And the very act of this country declaring that you have been here for 400 years is magnifying the word of Yah. And the very act of you returning to the Most High and saying, yes, I am Yah's seed, is magnifying the word of Yah. But since you have acknowledged it, since you can see it, since you know that Yahweh is your Elohim, now it is the time to take Yah seriously. Yahweh told you, as he's been telling you, the beginning from the ending. And what happens if you don't obey his voice? But what happens when you do obey his voice? Well, look here in Exodus, the 20th chapter. In Exodus, the 20th chapter, verse 5 says, you shall not bow down yourself to them nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. If you listen to Yah, then he'll be merciful unto you. Look at Isaiah, the 52nd chapter. As a matter of fact, before you go there, go to Deuteronomy. Start reading at verse 26. And it states, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that you shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over the Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed because of your wickedness. And Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, where Yahweh shall lead you. And there you shall serve deities, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. How you going to serve an Elohim that can't see you, that can't hear you, that you giving it food and it don't eat it? It don't even smell it. But if from there you shall seek Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall find him. Yes, here in America, there in England, there in France, there in the islands, there in Africa. If you shall seek Yahweh your Elohim, you shall find him if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. Which means you got to listen to all that he says. When you are in tribulation, as you are, as we are in tribulation right now, and all these things have come upon you, even in the latter days. And did we not let you know that these are the latter days? This is the time in which the latter days are upon us. If you turn to Yahweh your Elohim and shall be obedient to his voice. If you do this right there in your neighborhood, for Yahweh your Elohim is a merciful Elohim. He will not forsake you nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them. Yahweh will be merciful to you. And even though I showed you how many people were destroyed, righteous men even, destroyed, Yahweh said he won't do it if you are obedient to his voice. For acts now are the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Elohim created man upon the earth, and acts from the one side of heaven to the other, whether there has been any such thing as this great thing is, or has been heard like it. Did ever people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard and live? No. Nobody else has heard this. Nobody else has experienced this. This is not coded on anybody else's DNA. This is not coded in anybody else's genetical memory except yours. Therefore, you're the people of Yah. And Yahweh said, if you return to him and seek him, and you shall find him with all your heart and with all your soul, and be obedient unto his voice, then he won't destroy you. Then this is what you'll experience. Psalms 91. Psalms 91 says, in verse 1, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall remain under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of Yahweh, he is my refuge and my fortress, my Elohim. In him surely will I trust. Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover you with his feathers. Under his wings shall you trust. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, for the arrow that flies by day, nor for the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall by your side, and 10,000 by your right side, by your right hand. But it shall not come near you if you obey his voice. Only with your eyes shall you behold and see the reward of the wicked, because you have made Yahweh, which is my refuge, even the Most High, your habitation. There shall no evil befall you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. Just like Yahweh lets you know, if you do against him, he'll destroy you. But if you trust him and listen to him and put your all into him, he'll even give angels charge over you. And angels are above man, as you learned yesterday. But man has great mercies from the Most High if you obey his voice and not walk contrary unto him. And let me show you just 3 things before we depart, which Yahweh told you to do today. Not only did I just show you in Deuteronomy that Yahweh lets you know what will be the benefit of returning to him with all your heart and with all your soul in tribulation, when you're scattered, when you're in the places that he has scattered you, that he will not destroy you. But let me show you the commandment of Yahweh. Go to the book of Isaiah, the 52nd chapter. Isaiah 52, Start reading in verse 10. It says, Yahweh has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Elohim. And look what Yahweh says. Depart ye, go you forth from thence. Touch no unclean thing. Go ye out of the midst of her. Be ye clean that bear the vessels of Yahweh. Yahweh's telling you to get away from the wicked. Get away from the unclean. Get away from the unholy. Get away from confusion. And don't touch anything that's unclean. Put it down right now. Don't touch the unclean thing. Do not defile yourself anymore. Like Daniel, when he was in Babylon, he said, I'm not going to touch the king's wine, nor the king's meat, for I will not defile myself. Yahweh told you not to do this, so you won't be destroyed. Yahweh also let us know in the book of Zephaniah. And why are we bringing this message today? Why has Yahweh ordained for this word to go forth at this time? Because Yahweh wants you to be saved. He wants you to wake up. He wants you to be delivered. He has already reserved deliverance for you. He has already created a pathway for you to be delivered and to enter into salvation. It's a place waiting for you right now. And the only thing that is preventing any one of us from walking into that holy place, the only thing that's preventing you from that is you. You can say it's him. You can say it's her. You can say it's them. But it's you. And look what Yahweh said in Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse. Now listen. We seen that Ahab rejected Yah's word and he was destroyed. That Saul rejected Yah's word and he was destroyed. Nadab and Abihu rejected Yah's word and they were destroyed. Moses and Aaron did not sanctify Yah and they did not make it into the Holy Land. Yet, will you continue to reject the word of Yah? And if you didn't realize that most of these men who rejected Yah's word rejected the word which another man told them in the name of Yahweh. Only Moses and Aaron were given the message directly from the mouth of Yah himself. But the rest, another servant of Yah gave them the instruction in the name of Yah. That's why I say, if the voice don't have a name on it, then we don't have to put no claim to it. But Yahweh has told you and I, he has told the children of Israel, commanded the children of Israel, ordered the children of Israel to hear his word and obey it. And here will I deliver to you the word of Yah in the book of Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse. It states, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day passes as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Yahweh comes upon you, before the day of Yahweh's anger comes upon you, seek ye Yahweh, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be you shall be hidden in the day of Yah's anger. And there's not a problem with a lot of people when you tell them to seek Yah. They're like, cool, let's go seek Yah. The problem comes with the first thing Yah said. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together. And if you don't do that, that's part of Yah's word. That's one of the things the voice of Yahweh has spoken. And don't be mistaken. And know for a surety. Know for a certainty that if we do not gather ourselves together, yea, gather ourselves together, we will be destroyed. We will be consumed if we do not listen to the voice of Yah. Therefore, remember that the house of Israel is having our 26th annual Restoration of the Sacred Laws Conference coming March 28th through the 31st, where we will be discussing the great words of the mighty Yah, gathering ourselves together to remember Yah, to remember his word in order that we may not be destroyed, that we can be saved. So praise the mighty Yah. Make sure you go to our website, worldgatheringisrael.org, for all the details for our conference. And remember the word of Yah. And until tomorrow, Yahweh loves you very much, and so do we at the house of Israel. Shalom.
Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name.
Bless Yah, all you witnesses, do not forget his benefits. Forgive the iniquity, till the diseases in my ligaments. The Redeemer and Creator, me from dust, he know I make up merciful and slow to anger. Gracious, only one can save us. Yah, who satisfies my mouth with good things. Bless Yah, who renews me like the eagle's wings. Bless Yah, who made his ways known unto Moses and his acts to the children of Israel, who he chosen. Bless Yah.
Bless Yah, oh my soul. Bless Yah, all his angels. Bless Yah, all his homies. Bless Yah, all his words. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul. Singing praises to your holy name. Bless Yahweh, oh my soul, singing praises to your holy name. I will bless Yah at all times. His praise shall continually be in my rhyme. Praise Yah for unto what his glorious shine.